It's an indescribable feeling. When I try to put it into words, what I say is just can't convey the enormous blackness, terror, fear. To describe it as the same feeling I think somebody would feel if they were being held underwater by someone, and the need to get oneself up above water to breathe again. That's one description of the feeling of panic and terror.
This film is about a dreadful affliction which affects 1 in 50 adults in Britain.
The worst thing about it is you think you can get used to it, but you can't, because you're living with it every day. Every night you go to bed, you know that you're going to get up. So it's like being in a constant nightmare when you go to bed every night. Things happen one after another. You imagine getting up in one night alone 5, 6, sometimes 10 times in a night.
Please, quick, because he's going to hit me hard. No, we got them yesterday. We got them yesterday. What, you have to shut the door, please?
To Rosemary and James Seymour, this is a relatively minor attack. 4 years ago, Rosemary's sleepwalking nearly cost her life.
I don't remember it, but I just literally ran straight through and put my arm through this window. And instead of going to the hallway, which is what I normally do, I went to the light.
When I got up to her, she was still pretty frantic at that stage and sort of moving around quite a lot, and I was thinking it's all right. But when I actually looked down on my dressing gown, it was actually coated in blood.
I severed it from this side to here. Arteries, tendons, nerves, and anything else that's in there. It was just the bone that stopped it from going all the way through.
Rosemary's family are used to her sleepwalking, but she's wary of telling other people about it. They often think it's funny. GPs tend to dismiss it, and it has been treated with skepticism and even ridicule by hospital staff, as Rosemary found to her cost.
When I was in hospital after the accident, some people thought I'd done it deliberately. And I found that really upsetting, because I've never wanted to do anything like that. They found it quite hard to accept that I could possibly have done it in my sleep.
Moya Acton has spent 5 years trying to find out what's wrong with her.
Hey!
She used to run a successful company, but the attacks started becoming unbearable.
Nearly.
She and her husband John finally got to a specialist. To their horror, he diagnosed epilepsy.
That's good.
We were stunned. I got a second opinion. I got a third, a fourth and a fifth opinion. And the opinions were not black or white. They all thought... they varied from saying, yes, I was epileptic, to no, I wasn't. No, I don't think you are, I'm not sure.
Clyde Johnston's promising army career came to an abrupt end one night in Chelsea Barracks.
That's when I put my hand through the window. And it's only because a medic was on duty at the time that otherwise I probably would have died, because I lost about 4 pints of blood.
Clyde is now a security guard. He too is deeply frustrated by the lack of help he's received from doctors.
They're delving into something they don't know anything about, and I think they're a bit casual about it. And it takes something drastic before they really take heed and really put all the resources into it, which isn't fair on us, really, because it might be minor things that we do, but it's still affecting my whole life.
It was only after nearly killing himself a second time that Clyde finally got referred to the only NHS clinic dedicated to treating the condition. Rosemary has been invited to the same clinic. For her too, it's the last hope.
You obviously are upset at the time. Do you think you're awake?
I'm not awake at the time, no, but I have my eyes open, because I've been told my eyes are open
Yes.
when I get up. And I just think I've seen something and I go.
Yes. I mean, if you're not awake, are you asleep?
I'm not sure, because I think I know what I'm doing, and then suddenly I realise, no, there isn't anything there.
Yes.
And after
In
a
a
few...
way, you're just rather restricted in terms of your
It's like
awareness.
half-
And you're half awake. Is that right?
It's like half awake,
half
asleep.
conscious.
Yeah.
Would that be right? And I mean, it may seem a silly question, but is that the main reason why it bothers you, the hazard of injuring yourself?
Well, that's the only reason, yeah. Otherwise, I
Is
could
there any
put
other
up
reason
with.
that yes, I see. There's no other reason that it causes distress. It's just the danger to yourself. Yes. I mean, you mentioned a girlfriend, so is that there's someone sleeping with you?
Well, not at the moment, but obviously I have had girlfriends, and
Yes. I mean, does it bother them?
well, it has a couple of them, yeah.
Yes. I mean, have they felt that there was any danger?
Well, one did, yeah. It was sort of sleeping and that. I got up one night and that, and I was virtually strangling her.
Yeah.
But obviously I was sleeping. She didn't know that.
Have you ever cheated at a game?
Yes.
Interesting. Do you ever feel just miserable for no reason?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
The questionnaires are designed to provide clues into their characters.
Helping yourself to more than...
Then they're booked into Professor Crisp's sleep laboratory for a night of physical tests.
Isn't it? You've got Sean's number, haven't you?
Yes.
Sure?
Yeah.
You're going to be all right?
Don't worry, yes, fine.
Don't do anything mad.
No, I won't.
All right? Cheers.
No,
I'll see you later.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
At least Rosemary won't have to face the ordeal on her own.
I've always had to tell people I do it. But I don't think I'm quite as, not violent. I mean, I don't knock things about as much as you do.
No.
And I don't know about it.
When did you actually start sleepwalking then?
When I was about 11 or 12.
For each of them, this is the first time they've been able to talk to a fellow sufferer.
When you tell sort of people that have never experienced it, I think you're mad. That's the worst thing. You go into work and tell the lads at work and that, and they'll laugh their heads off.
Well, I don't know, I think you're mad. Probably just amusing. And they wouldn't like to spend the night with you.
Thanks.
Right, that's it, Rosemary. If you should need me in the night, you just ring that once, all right? Switch the light off and the recording will begin and the monitor will be switched on.
Right. Thanks a lot, Sharon.
Night-night.
Night-night.
An infrared camera will record any activity. Nobody really understands why people sleepwalk. Children normally grow out of it, but in adults, it's very hard to treat. What is known is that people with certain recognizable sleep patterns are susceptible. But is a person's character also relevant? In Professor Crisp's clinic, they believe that the sleepwalkers tend to be the people who suppress some of their emotions in waking life. The only way out for these pent-up feelings may be through an attack.
Help me?
Rosemary's night terrors are not nightmares. They erupt from a much deeper level of sleep, as she learns from Professor Crisp.
It wouldn't surprise me if you felt pretty tired after a night like this. You waken on perhaps 20 occasions through the night. A lot of this wakefulness is occurring straight from deep sleep.
Yeah.
And this shift from deep sleep abruptly into wakefulness is the hallmark of sleepwalking. So there's that. Now, when it comes to the psychological tests, they were quite interesting. You are someone who's a bit of a loner. You do have a lot of anger locked up inside of you. And I think the thing that is fueling your sleepwalking is some of the strain that you're under in your life. My view is that it may be possible to help you with a psychological approach, which will actually help you.
Clyde and Rosemary are referred for psychotherapy.
Today, present life.
Meanwhile, Moya and her husband John arrive at a private clinic where they encounter a very different approach to treatment.
Well, I think what you've both given me is the classical description of night terrors. And these are a sleep disorder. I don't think it doesn't sound to me like epilepsy. Although the treatment for night terrors isn't terribly satisfactory, there are various treatments which one can try. And I might be able to show you one of them. Now, your sleep disorder, your night terror, occurs at the transition from deep sleep to dreaming sleep, and that's about 90 minutes after sleep onset. One of the treatments is to try and prevent you having such deep sleep there. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to set an alarm clock at that period there. Do you see? So this will break up your sleep.
Yes.
And theoretically, if you don't have the deep sleep, then you won't get that sharp transition, and it might help your attacks. So the first thing to do then will be to set an alarm clock there, and we'll see how you go with that.
That night, Moya sets her alarm to wake her up before she enters the danger zone of deep sleep. She hopes that this very simple idea will do the trick. Clyde has an appointment with a psychotherapist. He's intrigued, but he's also skeptical.
I suppose I was thinking of this as something in which I don't have the answers, but that I sort of look with you in any direction that we feel would be worth and important to look in. I was thinking you may be a better judge of that than me.
If I was, I wouldn't be here, would I?
Mm-hmm. Again, I could lead with a question or two, but I'm in a way interested to see what you feel is important to tell me about yourself.
Yeah, but isn't that putting the pressure on me to come?
Yeah, I suppose it does, in a way. I could relieve the pressure, I suppose, by, asking you one or two specific things. But I wouldn't then know what you wanted to tell me.
What I think it might be is that I've never had a great relationship with my mother for some reason. I'm not saying I was a perfect child now, but I know there was no way I'd done anything to want the way she treated me as a child. Not once in her life have she ever told me she loved me, which is obviously, it's hurtful, isn't it? I can remember being a bit of a bully at school. I could have had lots of friends, but I always wanted to be the, you know what I mean? I always took it out on the other kids, and in the end, I drove them away in the end. I've had some great friends, and I've drove them away. I've fallen out with them through my stubbornness and bloody-mindedness, I suppose.
So on the one hand, you're a loner, also feeling alone, and yet at the same time you sort of do things to your relationships that means that you stay alone. Is that what you're saying?
I think I'll end up alone, yeah.
Meanwhile, Moya has been continuing with her alarm clock therapy.
We had 7 weeks without an attack, and we really thought we'd cracked it. Eureka, we're there, no drugs. We've got success, but unfortunately in the 8th week, I had an attack.
Moya had been setting her alarm to wake her up an hour after going to sleep. But the attack came before it went off. So Dr. Fenwick suggested she set a second clock to go off half an hour before the first one. But then the attack started coming earlier still. So Dr. Fenwick suggested she get a third clock and set it even earlier. In the end, it became unbearable, with the earliest alarm set only 10 minutes into her night.
That started to get very tiring and wearing, and unfortunately it didn't work. But it was worth trying.
Towards the end, confusion reigned because the alarms were actually causing attacks. The alarm going off was causing an attack to happen. So really the plan collapsed in disarray, didn't it?
Yes, yes.
Less than delighted, Moya returned to the Priory Clinic to see what Dr. Fenwick had to say. He booked her in for more tests. During her 3-night stay, she had a minor attack. Its effect on her heart prompted Dr. Fenwick to advocate the very thing that she'd hoped to avoid.
Do you see this very large peak here? Yes. That is when your night terror occurred. The heart suddenly, over the course of a beat or so, accelerates from, well, it must have been going to about 60, right up into the 140s, bang, like that. And that's the actual onset of the terror. Now, if we can give you a drug which will stop those effects, then we may be able to stop you alerting and the whole thing going into a cycle.
Will the drug, does that mean the drug's working on the heart?
Well, it's working on the autonomic nervous system. That is the whole system which controls the heart and the expression of anxiety in your body, like sweating and so on.
How long will I be on this treatment?
Until the attacks die away. And I hope that won't be too long.
Is that saying they are going to die away then?
The natural history of them is that they do. Usually as one gets older, then the attacks do die away of their own accord. Common in children,
so
rare in adults.
If I'm on the medication, how will I know when to come off the medication because the night terrors have stopped of their own accord?
We're treated just like we do any other form of paroxysmal disorder. When you haven't had it for a little while, then we'll slowly decrease the drugs. We won't stop them immediately, slowly decrease them, and if it doesn't come back, then we'll hope it's gone away.
I'm a little disappointed that it appears I'm going to have to take the path of drugs. I had hoped I could get away with not doing that, but it appears that's a way I've got to go now. But having spent the last five years trying to find a way of helping them to go away and not got anywhere, I'm very philosophical and disappointed.
For Rosemary, it's different again. Her whole family has been invited to a psychotherapy unit in Oxford. She's apprehensive about being asked intrusive personal questions.
Hello. Hello. Hi, I'm Gwen Daniel. Hello. This is a rather unusual meeting. Hello. You, James. Hello. We enable people to concentrate on what they can change in the present, which often means that they don't need to go right back and look for causes. And we find that that often is as effective and creates less dependency on therapy than spending years searching for causes.
I don't understand what psychotherapy does. As the same as Rosemary, I don't quite understand how it can help. But I've never actually experienced it before anyway, so I suppose a sort of a closed opinion on it, I suppose. If you haven't experienced it, you don't know what it's like anyway.
No.
Right. So you're maintaining a
I think
a healthy scepticism.
If there is a reason why Rosemary is doing this, and you find it out, the only reserve I've got is that by bringing it out, it actually changes her totally into something totally different, a lot worse or whatever. And that's the only sort of concern I've got.
That'll be a worry for you.
Rose's mother.
They are not alone.
Presumably is used to it from when she was younger.
Rosemary and James know that behind a one-way mirror, watching every move and listening to every remark, are 5 other people.
When we go and stay with my family, one of my brothers.
The idea is that 6 minds are better than 1.
They experience it, so they experience the one-off.
Would you ever wake him up just because he wanted some reassurance? Or?
It's usually if they're bad, I wake up. But you don't.
I don't normally, I just get back into bed.
Apart from understanding the role that the problem plays in their lives, Gwyn Daniel is gently encouraging Rosemary and James to realize that the way they see each other and the way they behave towards each other may be heavily dependent on the sleepwalking problem.
His sleep, it's waking him up from a certain point of his sleep, so he can't always control his emotions, like if he got cross or...
So I just get the impression then that you worry quite a lot about how you what you share with James at that time, and maybe worry about what effect it has on him.
I used to get very upset about his reaction.
If they can be coaxed out of their set ways of seeing each other, and if Rosemary ceased to be thought of as the fragile invalid of the family, then they might both have the courage to let the problem go.
Because his sleep was disturbed as well, his emotions were slightly, didn't know really what was happening to him.
But the implications for their relationship would be enormous, and James would have to accept a totally different Rosemary.
Yeah, she seems to be worried about how I will react to things. I don't know why. But,
I think we should get out now.
That we have to have a light on.
That's my colleague, just asking if I'll come for a brief consultation. Okay. What I'm going to do is draw these curtains over here.
You were wondering whether if you went in on a question like, if it stopped, what would be the effect on their relationship? So if it stopped, what would be the opening for them, and what would be the constraining effect on it, and who would it be most frightening for, and so on?
Well, that's right. If their relationship were to change very much, would he actually be able to handle a shift in the balance of power? And if he couldn't, would that lead to the relationship splitting up? Suppose the sleep disturbance becomes less part of your life. What sort of changes might there be in the relationship between you? We can see that, for you, there could be a bit of a bind about how much you want things to change and how much you don't.
He's depending on me, depending on him, that sort of
thing.
Yes,
exactly, that kind of thing. Do you think James would find it difficult to get used to the new Rosemary that would emerge even more, perhaps, if you don't have these, if you get stronger?
I would probably start to worry, I think.
What was my game?
I feel that if a more dominant person, you get the impression that they don't care so much about somebody. The more dominant they are, the less caring they are about.
But I mean, I think I have learned how, over the years, to stand up for myself a lot more anyway. But,
have you?
Yeah, I think so. But still quite sensitive. I don't know.
Is it helping?
Yeah, well, it's early because it's only 3 times, but I think it's quite good.
4 months later, they all come together at Moya's house to discuss their different experiences.
They're direct, but they're not, if you know what I mean. It's quite a long-winded, winding way of asking you something, and then you have to sit and think hard about what she's trying to say. Often I have to ask you about 3 times what she means.
But there's a glass mirror, and there's 5 people behind that who are all making notes.
Colleagues.
It's very strange. But they never tell you anything. You sit there wondering, well, why are they asking that question?
Well, no, she did
Each of them has suffered for over 20 years, and they are finding it hard to accept that any of the available therapies are really going to stop their night terrors.
So I'll have to see. But I've been just doing it just as bad as ever, yeah. I've had some crazy nights.
Rosemary wants to believe in her therapy. She'd like to change, as long as James can take it.
So I'm hoping that this therapy will make me very assertive.
Watch out.
They've been asking you if Rosemary changed, how would that affect your life? She suddenly became a very assertive sort of person and started ruling. I think, you can't change that much overnight.
It's more threatening for James, and neither of them wants to push things too far.
Yes.
Moya is putting a brave face on more disappointing results.
So you're taking tablets, aren't you?
But
me? No.
I am.
Well, maybe I should be, that's probably...
But yes, I've started on this course of beta blockers, which are, all they do is slow down the heart as I go to sleep.
Do they work? Have they been working?
Well, they're working. I had 6 weeks without an attack, which is very, very unusual. But then I had 3 attacks within 1 week. But
After a year of alarm clocks and drugs, Moya's doctor has finally referred her for psychotherapy.
I'm sure therapy is the way I'd like to progress, because it's the way of actually sorting it out and getting rid of any form of medication.
But psychotherapy is not for everyone. After only 2 sessions, Clyde packed it in.
I think if you don't get on, like I've been sort of jail with this guy, so obviously I don't feel comfortable talking to him. The thing is, he sits there, right, silent, and he says, well, talk about whatever. To me, that's not the way to do it. You know, you've got to ask the right questions. It embarrasses me more if, if it's silent, then it gets longer and longer, and he just says, well, talk.
There's nothing left for Clyde now. Like thousands of others, he may have night terrors for the rest of his life.